Last week, we seen Nic Claxton arrive to the Chicago Bulls facility. And on today's episode, I want to ask a question. Is Nic Claxton ready to prove the Chicago Bulls right? I'll let you know what I mean about that shortly. And then we got some interesting trade stuff. The Chicago Bulls are being urged by a writer to trade for Scoot Henderson. What does that deal look like? Does it make sense for us? Y'all know we're going to talk about it, break it all down, but you gotta hear the music first.
Cognac, gang.
Shy Boys podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down for today's daily episode. So if you're tuned in, like what you're listening to today, make sure you go ahead and do the simple two-step process. And that is hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It's the easiest way possible to support us over here. Hey, let's get into the content though. But hey, I want to talk about Nic Claxton. Nic Claxton last week arrived to the Chicago Bulls practice facility, and he seemed excited. But the biggest question is he ready to prove the Chicago Bulls right? Now, some may say, what do you mean by that? I mean, go out there and be the player that we believe he can be for the sake of the Chicago Bulls. Now, there is one side of the discussion when the trade went down that a lot of people was like, he's a declining player. He's a player that's not going to impact anything over here in Chicago. And then there's another side that says, hey, and this is what I'm saying, you traded him for nothing, and you're going to get something. Now, if it's going to be something on the loans where back in 2022/2023 season where he received some Defensive Player of the Year votes, hey, I think it's possible. Hey, we'll wait to see if that comes to fruition. But I don't necessarily think he has to be the Defensive Player of the Year in those conversations to have an impact for the Chicago Bulls. Now, on the other side to where we talked about, some people said that, hey, or there's, conversations about Nic Claxton being a declining player. You can very well view it that way, especially when you look at the point totals. When we talk about that Defensive Player of the Year, votes that he received back in 2022, his point totals was at 12 points per game. He definitely was more efficient from the field, and he was given a little bit more in the rebounding department along with some blocks. Over the last few seasons, he has not eclipsed that 12 points per game mark. His blocks have went down, and his rebounds have went down as well. Last year, bringing in 11 points, 7 rebounds, and really not shooting that well from the field at just 57%. But if we take it a little bit further and we look at the type of team that he was around, let's keep it a buck. You ain't had too many players over there in a long time that can set him up for the type of skill set that Nic Claxton has. He's going to be a guy that's going to operate out of pick and roll. He's going to roll to the basket, and you got to set him up. You got to have guys in place to set him up. And I think that he is going to prove the Chicago Bulls right. And I think that when you look at those type of things and you analyze the game and analyze those players that's going to be around them, first of all, I think though there may be some moments to where there could be some clogs inside of the painted area because of Caleb Wilson and Matisse Buzelis probably operated in there. On the other side, we can't make have a discussion and said that there's going to be instances to where he's going to be available in some space because Matisse Buzelis 6 attempts last year, and if Caleb Wilson with his 3-point shooting that we all came to know during summer league translate to the regular season, there could very well be an argument that there will be space for Nic Claxton to operate in. And then I look at his point guard. The last few years, let's keep it a buck. He had to run with guys like Cam Thomas, who's a gun, and Igor Denham, who's still trying to learn his way throughout the NBA. Now he's going to be given Josh Giddey, and Josh Giddey is absolutely going to be a guy that can set him up, that's going to be able to give him opportunities, easy ones at the basket, and that's going to help pretty much revitalize him in that department, in the rebound department. And then the defensive side of the ball, he's going to have a ton of help. If he's in there as that defensive anchor, which I believe he's going to be, you're going to look at Montes Buzelis being able to come from that weak side and help. Teams are going to be fearful of Caleb Wilson and his ability to play athletic and be able to block shots alongside Montes Buzelis. So there definitely could be some steps available for Nic Claxton to really show that he can impact the game. And I think that while we're looking at some stuff, we also have to include the transition game, to where if you have Josh Giddey operating in transition, he's very well going to be able to find the right basketball players to make basketball plays. And that's going to be something that Nic Claxton has not seen in a very long time. So, and at just 27 years old, I think you can't necessarily count him out. I'm not going out there and say that he's going to average 15 and 10, but if he could somehow get close to that 10 rebound department, get close to 12, 14 points in between there, that'll be just as much as everything that we wanted out of a center who, over the past few years, we dealt with Nikola Vucevic. Though he was very, very good at putting the ball in the basket, he was not that damn good defensively. I don't care how y'all try to spit it. We know that this guy, he ain't taking away from nobody. He's going to be set up with a lot of stuff. He's going to be able to anchor that defense. He's going to be able to rebound the basketball and do the things that he is best at. You don't get into defensive player of the year conversations by being mid. And I think that has not gone anywhere. I think you look at some of the changes that have been going on in Brooklyn. And I know one time they tried to try out Mikal Bridges. Another time they're trying out Michael Porter Jr. You had to deal with guys like Cam Thomas. So there's a number of things. And I believe that this lineup that we're going to potentially see is going to be a really, really good fit for a guy like Nic Claxton at just 27 years old. I'm not going to be the one that stands on top of a desk and complains that he's giving us something when we got him for nothing. So I think that this man is about to come in here and he's going to be able to prove his doubters right. He's absolutely going to justify the Chicago Bulls move to go out there and get a player like this. And we cannot forget that he has some familiarity with Tiago Splitter. Tiago Splitter, according to him, is going to be able to tailor this system around the players that he have. And it's going to be something that we're going to be really, really honed in on, seeing how he affects the basketball team. And I think there's going to be other opportunities outside of just that starter five, to where if you can get a Jalen Smith to come in and him be able to stretch the floor, that's going to be more opportunities available for a guy like Nic Claxton inside the paint to play cleanup duty or to just have opportunities at the rim on the offensive side of the ball. So I think he's absolutely going to come in here and play well for the Chicago Bulls. I really, really expect him to have himself a big season. And I want people to understand that there's levels to this, at least in my mind, that guys don't necessarily have to be 20 points per game scorers to have an impact on the game. I think there's a lot of ways that you can affect winning in a number of ways outside of, just scoring 20 points per game, because we've seen players like one of his former teammates, Cam Thomas, who can very well put the ball in the bucket, not really be that impactful. And look at his free agency that just happened. So it's definitely going to be something that we're going to monitor all season long. We do have some time before we get there, but hey, I think he's going to prove a lot of people right. A lot of people right and a lot of people wrong. Y'all let me know how y'all feeling about Nic Claxton, man. Let us know down below. But hey, now we switch gears and we talk about some trade news. The Chicago Bulls are being urged to trade for Scoot Henderson. According to Justin Grasso of Heavy.com, he believes the Chicago Bulls should pull the trigger or at least inquire about Scoot Henderson. We know that this is a guy that was drafted in the lottery. You know what I'm saying? Has only played 3 seasons so far. Still a young guy at just 22 years old. And here's Justin's reasoning behind it. He said, being in a rebuild with a new coaching staff and a revamped front office, now is the time for the Bulls to experiment. He went on to cite Scoot Henderson's familiarity with Tiago and him fitting the timeline of where of where the Chicago Bulls are currently with their quote unquote youth movement. Now, the trade, the package, it was this. It was the Chicago Bulls will acquire Scoot Henderson and in return send Trey Jones and Isaac Okoro plus 2 second-round picks to get Scoot Henderson. Now, there's a number of ways that I feel like we can go with this trade package. Number one, I look at it as, do we really have to give up 2 defenders to get a Scoot Henderson, who I believe he's more athletic than a Trey Jones. He's definitely improved as a defender. He's definitely a better three-point shooter than both of those guys mentioned in Trey Jones and Okoro. But is that a little bit too hefty? But on the flip side, you look at it, you say, damn, me personally, I'm a huge fan of Trey Jones. A huge fan. Right now, Isaac Okoro, do I still like him? I do. Not so much of liking Trey Jones, but a team that's going to have some questions, you know what I'm saying, at least in some areas of the basketball team, do you really want to depart with 2 of these players? And then the second round picks, I'm like, it's cool with it. Bryson Graham don't appear to be that he's going to be a guy that's really in love with second round picks, just me personally, but it's definitely something to consider if this is too much or if this is right on par. Scoot Henderson last year only played or appeared in 30 games because he dealt with the hamstring that kept him out pretty much the entire season. Definitely just appeared in 30 games, so you know he missed more than half of a season. But while he put up 14 points, 3.7 assists, and shot 35% from the 3, you look at Isaac Okoro, who only had 9 points and averaged a steal. And then you look at Trey Jones, who gave you 14 points, 5 assists, and 1 steal, and you wonder, what can Scoot Henderson bring to the Chicago Bulls? Offensively, he's definitely more athletic than Trey Jones. Can he put the ball in the basket? It appears to me he absolutely can. I know some people are going to look more on the defensive side and say, hey, because I thought about the same thing as well. You're giving up 2 defenders and gaining 1. But more offensively talented than Trey Jones and Isaac Okoro. And last year, after some struggles early on in his career with having a defensive rating of 118, last year, his defense was much better. He actually improved his defense to a defensive rating of 112. So you went from 118 to 112. That tells me you worked on your game. And it definitely is an interesting one because not only was he drafted pretty damn high out of his respective draft, you still look at that athleticism and say, man, what could that bring to a Chicago Bulls team? But then on the flip side, that's why we having this conversation. While they are urged to do this, we got to have these conversations. And that's why I like having these conversations, because Trey Jones is a very high IQ basketball player. But Scoot Henderson, I think he has, you know what I'm saying, some good things that you can work with. But is that IQ at the level of Trey Jones? I'm not sure. I'm not going to act like I am. But it's definitely a lot of intriguing things for this, you know what I'm saying, to come about. And I understand the familiarity with Tiago Splitter. That'll add another player that Tiago Splitter is really familiar with to this basketball team. And he'll know exactly what he's getting out of Scoot Henderson and Nic Claxton. And there's definitely going to be some position battles to where we're going to be watching closely. And I think that you add on this tidbit for the Isaac Okoro being a part of this trade, because me personally, I want to see more of Leonard Miller. And Isaac Okoro being right there might take away from the minutes Leonard Miller could possibly see. But the biggest question that I got to ask is it too soon to try to make these type of moves? That's all I want to know. Because a part of me feels as if, yeah, you want to continue to improve this team. You want to go out there and, you know, put the best guys out there as possible. And if you can pull the trigger for a guy that can help you, you analyze that. You consider that. But then when you, on the flip side, you consider some things and you say, hey, I don't even know what I got. I don't fully think that Tiago Splitter understand what he has at this particular moment in time. I think when you get to training camp, he's going to have a closer view of that. Obviously you can go out there and watch film, you know what I'm saying, on how the Chicago Bulls played and how these players had an impact or did not have an impact based off film work. But that was in a different system that Tiago Splitter is not going to run. He's not going to just say shoot threes or go to the basket. I think he's going to allow certain players to be more of a three-level scorer, and there's going to be some things and some actions to where guys are going to be, available to take open shots. So I think that while a lot of the trades, seems pretty damn cool. Like a couple weeks ago, we heard about a Benedict Mathurin and stuff. Part of me just want to just sit and wait. You know what I'm saying? I think that you have the plan was to infuse this team with talent. And I think that you need to properly evaluate this talent. It's just like the trade Josh Giddey crowd. I'm like, why would they trade Josh Giddey? And they haven't even seen how he can operate with Matis, Caleb Wilson, Norman Powell, Nic Claxton. Like, it didn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? And this, while it's intriguing, it just doesn't make sense right now for me. I like Scoot, but I really, really like Trey Jones. But at the end of the day, it's not my decision to make. But I would imagine, and I would go out on a limb and say, I think that they have an evaluation period. That's what I've been saying all offseason. I think that you have to have an evaluation period. Who fits the timeline? You'll find that out once the games and practices start to happen in training camp next month. Who's gonna be gone? Who's gonna be up for grabs? I think you'll find that out as the season goes on. Right now, it's just a little premature for me, even though Scoot Henderson is an interesting name to really, really analyze. But in the 22 years old, hey, you like that. Many of us will like that idea to keep it young and keep it fresh and have guys to match the timeline, right? But Trey Jones is on a valuable deal. Maybe there's something else you can garner in the future if you just wait. But hey, we'll see, man. We'll see. I think it's really, really interesting to say the least, personally. Scoot Henderson has been a name out there. Benedict Mathurin is the name out there. Hell, Reed Shepherd has even came up with some talks or teams urging the Chicago Bulls to go look at him. Right now, we're talking about Scoot. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but is that something that the Chicago Bulls want to do? I say we play the wait and see game. If anything happens, I think it would have been happened already. That's just me. But hey, that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode. Before you get up out of here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well, man. We're getting closer and closer to some basketball. Football is rolling around. We got football games this week, but we talking about them Bulls as much as possible until we get these games rolling and we get in camp next month, man. It's going to be a fun time. It's going to be some good times. There's going to be a lot of excitement, man. But hey, we appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all always see red, and y'all already know I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure. Peace.
Cognac. Gang.